Hello, good evening. We will start to have the fifth lecture of the advanced database design. So let's start for the refresh some information that we already have studied before. But first of all, we look at the basic model that we are seeking for. Now we have first of all, we are looking at the external model and the conceptual model, which is a thing that is related to what we are going to say today. And after that, we have the internal model, and we have the database management system model. So let's start by refreshing our information about relational database model, because we will use this somehow to explain many things in our course. So relational database model, actually we have two ways, two representation of representing a relational database model. One of them is the chain model, and the other one is cross-foot model. As you can see, chain model is based on they put the name of the entity, the table, in a rectangle, and after that put in the ellipse the fields. But cross-foot model, which is the more famous than chain model, okay, they are putting this as a rectangle, and this contains the fields here. Okay, and this will be for special attributes. Okay, special attribute or special fields. That is supposed to be the primary keys and the foreign keys. So when we want to declare a primary key for the chain model, we can just put an underscore on it. Okay, but if we want to declare a primary key for the cross-foot model, as you can see, we just move it to upward to become just in a special part of this table. Okay. Again, if we want to look at also again, if we have multiple properties like those. Okay, this is another example for this. Okay, so we have here's the primary key, and all of these are regular keys or regular attributes. Here. With things related to derived attributes. Derived attributes means what? Means that something that is attribute that can be calculated from existing attribute. For example, one of the things, things like is the age. Okay. For example, today is the day of today, and subtracted from your date of birth, you can know your age. So age actually is a calculation for something that is related to today, okay? And date of birth is the original attribute, yes, but the derived attribute, we should derive it from the original attribute. It seems to be like this. In chain model, as you can see, we just put it as a dots, okay? In cross-foot model, nothing make it remarkable. We just make the calculation internal. Okay, so now we have two main things, three issues actually. We have the relationship one. We discussed it last lecture, and we have, in addition to that, we have the connectivity and the cardinality. So we have three parameters, not two parameters. First of all, we need to talk about relationship. So we discussed last time, that is, we have three types of relationships. One of them is one-to-one, one-to-many, and many-to-many. Then we know the problems of many-to-many. We have to break it to one-to-many, many-one. And we have now the connectivity is to describe how describe the strength of the relationship between the two entities. So we have two separate entities, and we know that, for example, they are one-to-many. Okay, this strength. What is the strength of this? Is it weak or strong? So this is what we could term it as a connectivity. Cardinality expresses what the minimum and the maximum number for this mapping between the entity to the other entity. So for example, something like this, if we talk about the professors and the class, this is, as you can see, is that one professor, okay, is tightly connected or strongly connected to this class. Okay, this is what we describe in this. So we say that is the connectivity here is strong because it's a straight line. If it was dashed line, so it would be say that it's weak connectivity. Now, the relationship, which is the one before, this is one-to-many, one professor and many classes. So this is what we term it as a one-to-many. And now with the cardinality, we say that the minimum number of professor is 1, maximum number of professor is 1. So this is the one side is 1. Okay, and the other side of the 4 classes. This means what? This means 1 to 4 means each professor should has at least 1 class and at most 4 classes. So at least 1 class and at most 4 classes. This is what we term it cardinality. So now let's go back again for the 3 terms. Relationship here is one-to-many, and connectivity, which is today's lesson. Connectivity means this is a strong connection, It's a straight line, not a dashed line. Dashed line means it's a weak relation. And the cardinality from the side of the professor is 1 and only 1. So minimum is 1, maximum is 1. And the other side, the classes, is each professor should has at least 1 class and at most 4 classes. So this is how we can describe the 3 terms of the relationship between the 2 entities. Fine. So weak relationship means that is the relationship between the 2 entities is not that strong. Means what? Means that is we just have a relationship. If you want to open a relationship between two entities, there should be a primary key exist in the other entity as a foreign key. So if we have one primary key in a certain entity and this primary key appears in the second entity as just a foreign key, so we call it as a weak relationship, a weak connectivity. Fine. Now strong connectivity, something like this. Let's go for an example. Something like this. We have the calls, which have a primary key, and we have class. Okay, we have a class. This is the second one, but we have the calls code, which is a primary key here, also is a foreign key here. So as long as the primary key in the first entity is just a foreign key in the second entity, so we term it as a weak connectivity relationship. Fine. So this is an example for the table. So we say that this is the calls code, which is the primary key here in the calls, and we have the calls code here again appears as a foreign key in the second table. So this is what we term it as a weak connectivity. Now let's go for strong. Strong relationship means what? Means the primary key of the first entity is primary key and foreign key in the second entity. So should be having two criteria, to be primary and to be foreign key at the same time. Okay, how this comes? This is definitely the relationship that we studied last time. Okay, of the many-to-many relationships. When we break the many-to relationship, so the primary key becomes a foreign key and primary key in the middle, the enrollment entity, which is in the middle. So let's look at this example. We have the primary key of the calls here, and it exists here, the calls code. Calls code exists here as a primary and as a foreign key. So it exists in plays 2 roles. One role is a primary part of the primary key, and in addition to that, it works as a foreign key as well. So by that, as you can see, the line becomes strong line. Strong line means this is the connectivity is strong. The connectivity here is strong. So if the primary key in a certain entity is just appears in the second entity as a foreign key, this is a weak relationship, a weak connectivity. And if the primary key in the first entity exists in the other entity as a primary key and a foreign key, okay, delaying 2 rules, so this means that it's what? It's a strong relationship. Okay, this is the example. Now, let's go for cardinality. Okay, so we have some issues about the cardinality. Now, optional participation means it might appear, the relationship between the 2 entities might appear in the second one and might not. So this is optional. Mandatory means it should appear in the second entity. Okay, so if you look at this, look at the all here. All means optional, and anything else is a mandatory. Fine. So if you look at here the professor is at least 1 and at most 1. So 1 and 1. So this is mandatory to have at least 1 professor and at most 1 professor, okay, for the one side. For the other side, the many side, for this relationship, okay, this is optional. Optional means a professor might have a class or might have no classes, but might have no classes up to 3 classes. So this is for the professor is optional, right? So this is what we term it as an optional, the cardinality, optional cardinality and mandatory cardinality. Now the number here again, this is 1 and 1. So this means what? This means it's optional or mandatory. This is mandatory because we don't have the O. O means optional. Once we see the O, so we start the cardinality starting from 0. So this means that is, it might exist, might not exist. So this means a course might have a class up to n classes, or might not. So we'd say might, so might and might not. Okay? Now, the last example here, say that this side is mandatory, and that side is also mandatory. At least we need one. At least we need one. Right? So the optional means what? Means we can start the relationship from an entity to another entity started from 0. Okay, here are the common things that is used for the mandatory things, for the cardinalities. So first of all, we have 0 to many, and this is 1 to many. Actually, I'll be using also this 1 to many, even if we have an upper bound more than 1. And this is 1 and only 1, and this is 0 or 1. Okay, so this is optional. Now, mostly we are using the first two. The first three, and this is really to appear in the real-life applications, really to appear. So, mainly, if we talk about the second and the third, those are the majority of real-life databases are related to those, and this is abused more frequently. Now, look at the relationship types or degrees. Okay, we have unary, or we can call also as well recursive. As you can see, here is the relationship between the employee and itself. Means what? Means the primary key here is also a foreign key inside itself. The primary key is a foreign key inside itself. Okay, this is also again really to happen. This is like employee manage many employees. So one of these employees is a manager. Right. Most common relationship is the binary relationship, and most of the time we have to focus on how to work with the binary relationships because this simplify everything. Start from step 2, and after that we can expand it to more and more. Okay, so this is the most common relationship is a binary relationship. Means that this relationship is describing the connect between two entities. So this is one and this is many. This is mandatory side and this is optional side. Okay, so this is one and only one cardinality, and this is 0 to n cardinality. Now let's see the last one, ternary relationship. Ternary relationship means what? We have a certain entity that is related to multiple entities. But if you look at this, you can find that this relationship is just a binary relationship, and this is another binary relationship, and this is another binary relationship. So we can look at this perspective instead of looking at the other perspective that is a real ternary. Fine. And mainly, if you look at the relations here, okay, definitely this is a many-to-many that has been break by an enrollment table. This is a 1-to-many, many-to-one. So this is a relationship between doctor and patient, used to be a many-to-many, and we break it into 1-to-many, many-one. Fine? So let's re-describe those things in terms. First of all, relationship here is a binary. Relationship here is binary. Is 1-to-many binary. It's a weak relationship, and the cardinality here is 1 and 1 mandatory. The cardinality in the other side is a 0 to n and optional. Fine. Second one, we have the relationship between the professor and class. This is a binary relationship. It's a 1-to-many relationship. This is the description, and it's a weak relationship because this is a dashed line, and the cardinality here is 1 and 1. And the cardinality here is 0 and n because this is all is optional, right? So this is mostly you will find this in real life databases. Last one is the ternary database, ternary relationship, which goes with from one entity to 3 ways. Okay, but again, if we consider this as three separate binary relationships, this also would be acceptable. So, but now let's describe this relationship. This relationship is between the doctor and the prescription. So this one is a strong relationship. Is a 1-to-many strong relationship. Cardinality here is 1 and 1. Cardinality here is 0 and n. because this is optional. Okay. Now, the other side, we have this again. This is a one-to-many relationship, and it's a strong relationship. If this side is a one-on-one cardinality, and this side is 0 and n optional. From here to there, again, the same thing that applies in the other two sides. Fine. So here we go. How we can describe the relationship in more details. This will give us somehow a powerful help to build our conceptual model as well. Now, there are some kind of a recursive relationship, but you know it's not that commonly abused in the databases. So, for example, all binary relationship is a recursive relationships means that is the key belongs to itself. Okay, the primary key is also a foreign key inside itself. Also the same thing here. Okay, now we have this one is a recursive relationship. Recursive relationship means we have relationship from here to there, and we have relationship again from here to there. So, but this is not like the many-to-many break. This is not a many-to-many break. So the primary key here is a primary key there. The primary key is a primary key and foreign key there. And primary key here is a primary key and foreign key there. How I can know that this information? Because I see this is a strong relationship. So I can conclude that the primary key in the course, and this is also the course. You see, this is the course and the course, the same thing. But it has two different relationships. So this will be primary and foreign at the same table, and this is primary and foreign at the same table. So this is how it maps on itself. Again, recursive relationships are not that commonly popular in designing the databases. Fine, so let's go for the many-to-many relationship, but we'll study in the fourth week. We just carry on in the next step to just describing again the cardinality and the connectivity. We learned that if we have two entities with a many-to-many relationship, we break them into one many-to-many one. And we said that in the middle, the enrollment table, we put the primary key from this side, the primary key of this side to becomes primary key. And we consider the primary key here is a foreign key here alone, and the primary key here is also a foreign key here alone. So in the middle, we consider the class code and student number together a primary key. And separately, primary key and separately, class code is a foreign key, and also student number is another foreign key. So this is why we can say this. As long as this primary key appeared here as a primary and foreign, so definitely this is a strong relationship. And here's the primary key appears here as a primary and foreign, so it's a strong relationship. This is not the same, because the primary key here is a foreign key here, and the primary key here is a foreign key there. This is a weak relationship. So this is a strong, and this is a strong, this is the reason. And in addition to that, we have this is one and only one, and this is optional and to many. So this is one and one, and this is 0 and this is one and one, and this is 0 and n. As you can notice, that is this 0 n, or this optional cardinality is also appear here in optional cardinality. So you just reverse them to inward instead of make them the outward. Fine. So this is an example for this. We know that there is a relationship between student and classes. This is supposed to be many-to-many. But now we have to break them into one-to-many, many-one. So because of that, there used to be here a column that is class code is here, okay, and there are many repetitions. So you take the class code from here, put it there. And take that, here is the student number as well. Student number used to exist here. You just move it to becomes here. So together, those together are the primary key. And each of them separately is a foreign key. So by that, we have a relationship between this table and that table as a strong relationship. This is student number. And this is student number appears here as a primary together and as a foreign. Primary and as a foreign. Here class code appears here as a primary and as a foreign. Fine. So let's go for an example for developing a database model from scratch. Okay, this is a tiny college model. So what we have to do in when we develop a database, first of all, we make an analysis. Analysis means you are sitting with a client or the customer who requires this database and started to let him describe to you the problem and tell you about what are the options that they have, what are the things that they require in the database. So this is how we can convert the English into the tables. So this is how we can create that conceptual model, the concept of the client. This is where we get the term conceptual model. So let's go for a tiny college model. Okay, it's divided in several schools. Yeah, tiny college model. I want to develop the database for tiny college. Full stop. Okay. So when we say that it's divided into several schools, yeah, I know it's divided into several schools. But question: am I doing this database for all the colleges or for just the tiny college? Just the tiny college. So we cannot consider that this is one to many. It appears to be one to many, but it's not. It's not compulsory. It's not mandatory. Just say that because I'm developing this database for many schools. But I know that there are many schools. Okay, so let's go for one by one. A school of business, a school of arts, a school of science. So those are the names of schools. Let's start from here. Each. So we have many schools. We know that we have many schools. Okay. Now each school. So I'm talking about one. When you are developing the relationship or entity relationship diagram, okay, you have to look at both sides. So each school, so look at the school. So this is the school entity, okay, is administrated by a dean who is a professor. So there is a dean from the list of the professors. So this is the list of professors, and this is the list of schools. Okay. So if I say that there is a relationship, yes. So each school has a professor. So this is one-to-one direction. Now to verify that it's one-to-one relationship, okay, we have to look at from the other side, from here to there. So the dean can be there a dean, deans two schools, yes or no, and each dean can administrate only one school. So this is the other side, yes. So in the analysis, we get the English that convert from schools to professors is a dean relationship, and professor to school also the same relationship, which is a deanship. Okay, so we say that the school is administrated by one professor, and the dean can administrate only one school. So the dean, which is a professor, cannot administrate two schools. It's not. Okay, this is according to this model. Therefore, a one-to-one relationship exists between them. Okay. And the school. Okay, so now to go to note that the cardinality can express by one-to-one to entity professor and by one-to-one for the school. I think this is Rob Cornell. Just this is supposed to be one-to-one. This is from the book. Actually, this is a mistake in the graph, I think. Okay, so this is one-on-one and this is one-on-one. This means that if we keep it like this, zero means that there are some schools without deans. It might be this is the idea. Okay, but if we say no, each school should has a dean, so we have to make it one and one. Now, the smallest number of deans per school is one. Largest number of deans per school assigned to one school is also one. So this is the cardinality again appears here. So again, it's a weak relationship because we said the primary key here is just a foreign key here. That's it. Okay, and let's go for the second step. Okay, which one want to describe this relationship? So once I look at this relationship, I have to look at the school and the department in terms of what? From school to department should be one to many. From department to school, if it was one-to-one, so it's okay, the relationship is a one-to-many. But if it was one-to-many and one-to-many, so this is a many-to-many relationship. So we have to get this from the text itself. So each school is composed of several departments, or each school, this is one, each. Several departments, this is many. So school, many departments. So from the school to the department, there are one-to-many. Okay? Now, the cardinality rules, the smallest number of the department in the school is 1, okay, and the largest number of department is determined as n, okay? So each school has one department from 1 to n. So each school should has at least one department. This is why we say that this is mandatory. each school, if we open a school, so it should have at least one department to many departments. Okay, so thus the cardinality should be what? 1 to 1 from the school side, and 1 to n, 1 to n, 1 and n for the department side. But suppose that we say we have a school, each school has at least one department and up to 5 departments. So cardinality here would be 1 and 5. So this is the example for a bound or upper bound of this. Okay, now department and courses. Again, this is 1 to many. So we have to look at this from 1 to many from here and 1 to 1 from the other side. So each department, so one department offers may and may not. So may, this is supposed to be yes or may not. Offers courses. So the relationship between department and courses is each one department, courses, many courses, and may, so this is optional. So this is why we get the optional. So it may and may not. Okay? This is why we consider this as an all. And now in the description, Tiny College has some departments with research only. So research only, it might have no courses, just a research. So department with the research, not with the courses. So this is why we do it the case of, they make this something like this as optional, not as a mandatory. Next. Now we go to course and classes. Okay. Again, this is another relationship. You see previous relationship. This is offers. This is department offers courses. And now we go to courses and the classes, mapping between courses and classes. The relationship between courses and classes was illustrated as this figure. Okay, so it was that repeating class intersection is that the department offers several. That is, a department may offer several sections or several classes. So when you say a department, so this is one, several courses, several classes. Those are the classes. So each of the course, so class is a section of the course. The class is a section of the course. This is part of the course. So when we talk about the department, which the previous can provide, this is previously, department can offer many courses. So each course is divided into what? Into many classes. So each department can offer many classes. So this is what we can describe it here. So a department may offer several classes or several sections of this course. Okay, so each of those classes is taught by one professor. So this is the following table. Okay, the following table. So each course, okay, we got for now the mapping from the department to the classes. If we say that department may offer courses and may not offer courses, so each course is divided into multiple classes. So if the department were research only, so it might have no courses. So there are no courses, there are no classes as well. So this is why we get the relationship between them like this way. Now for this table, okay, we look at department and professors. We have now 2 separate relationships. Okay, now each department, which is this department, may have many professors. So one have many professors, may have many professors. When you say may, so it's an optional, might not, okay? And only one of those professors chairs the department. So we need at least one to share, to be head of department. So this is the shares of the department, okay? So this is in the other side of this one. So okay, so go to relationship between professors and classes. Each professor may teach up to 4 courses. Now we may teach up to 4 courses. So professor and classes, which is courses, okay, courses or classes, okay. So one professor may, so optional, may not. So this started from 0, okay, up to 4 classes. So this is the many courses, many side. So this is 1 to many. And we started from here to may, so this is 0 and 4 classes. So the cardinality in that side is 0 and 4. Okay? Because some professor can go this as a research, so they do not teach anything. Fine. Now, student and classes, we discussed this in the 4th week. That is, the relationship between student and classes is many to many. We break it into enrollment table in the middle. So 1 to many, many 1. Okay, we discussed this again. But now look at the cardinality. Okay, a student may enroll in several classes, but takes each class only during that. Each student may enroll in up to 6 classes. So each student can enroll to up to 6 classes. Up to means what? From 0 to 6 classes. Up to means from 0 to 6 classes. So each student up to 6 enroll in up to 6 classes. Okay, and we can say, and each class may have up to 35 students. So may means optional. So this is the optional side. So up from 0 to 35. So each class may have up to 35 students. So this is the side of the cardinality 0, 35. This is how we can look at the upper bound of the cardinality, the relationship between the cardinality between those relationships in the many-side relationship. Okay, now for department and student. Okay, each department may have many students. Each department may have many students. So each department has several or many students. Okay, who's measured over by department. Okay, but now we can say the department, if we started a new department or a research department, as we said, so we don't offer the courses. As we don't offer the courses, so there's supposed to be not students inside it. We might be just a researcher, just the faculty members. So it might have no students. This is why we put this as an optional. But how many students, the bound of the students in each department is unlimited. Okay. Now for professor and student, okay, each student has an advisor. So from student to professor, this is 1-to-1, but it's not, the image is not complete yet. Okay, each advisor consult several students. So from here to there is 1, and the opposite relationship, the opposite direction, okay, from professor to students is 1 to many. Each professor advises many students. Each professor advises many students, but each student is advised by just one professor. So from this side is 1-to-1, from this side to here is 1 to many. Again, professor might be a professor, might be working as in a research, so he don't have any students in the department, so he can advise nobody. The list of professors is still a list of professors, but this is according to the department that belongs to. Okay, now again, this is a relationship between the building and the room and the classes. So the classes, look at this directly. The building contains many rooms. So each building contains many rooms, okay? And each room with a certain code belongs to one building. So this is a 1-to-many relationship. Fine. So each room is used for multiple classes like chemistry, like physics, like math, okay? So one room, I can use it for according to a schedule to many classes. But each class, for example, Monday at 9:40, there is a mathematics class, okay, in the room number 331. So this is what we can say, that is, this room is booked for this course at this time for this mathematics class. Okay, but sometimes again, if we talk about the buildings and the room, okay, some buildings might be empty, like a warehouse or something. This doesn't contain any rooms. So some buildings, like warehouses, doesn't contain any rooms. Okay, and some rooms, okay, don't have any classes. Okay, for example, this studio, okay, don't have any classes. There are no students in this studio. Okay, so this is might be an example for what we can say that a room. This is still a room, but we cannot consider it as a class. Again, the relationship here is weak. The relationship there also is weak. Relationship is weak, and this is 1-to-many optional, 1-to-many optional. Okay, finally, we can summarize all this conceptual model into this table, okay? Say, giving the relationship between each school and each department. Fine? This is the relationship between each school and each entity and each entity and the other entity. As you can see, we can describe them in the ER diagram, or in our ER table, as a binary relationships. binary relationships means that is one entity to another entity. People don't rely on doing these things in a ternary. If it was unary means that is just feedback to itself. You can write both entities in the two sides. So this is how it can describe the relationship. And now we can construct the whole diagram of the ER diagram, okay, after we connect all these things together. Okay, this is quite complicated, but if we look at it what we describe it as each two entities and see the relationships between them one by one, after that you can get this complicated conceptual model. Fine. Okay, that's all for today. Inshallah, hopefully that everything goes well, and see you inshallah next week. Thank you.